Can you talk a little bit about the Nat Finkelstein images?
Well, you know, it's interesting because it was such a prolific eye, and he was really good at his craft, and I think he was probably more flexible, and he didn't exert his voice or his vision as much on his subjects as other people did. But sure enough, when you see a Nat Finkelstein photo and you walk up and go, "Oh, that's really cool," and it's like, "Oh, that's that Nat Finkelstein." It's nice to see like a swath of him just on that one thing, because you know there's probably, I don't know, 100 really interesting bodies of work you could do. You could take like what he cared about for street photography, which is a great lineage anyway, that I'm sure he was historically aware of everyone who'd ever done street photography, or the performance art or whatever. Nat Finkelstein kind of captured a lot of different stuff. He was, a working journalist.
Yesterday you met a couple collectors and you were talking about the latter part of the New York art scene where kind of Andy wasn't, on the same level. You had mentioned about Harry and Kenny Sharp really taking a liking to Andy.
Well, those artists did more for Andy than Andy could have ever done. They really helped reinvent him because it was a very, very low point. Warhol had made like a lot of really shitty work and some really horrible decisions, and he was really irrelevant in terms of contemporary art at that time. Really, like, there was nothing special going on with Andy's career, but the fact is that all these kids who came up in it's my generation. That's why we came to New York in the first place. That's why we wanted to be artists. It's like, that kind of mythic beacon of like, the Velvet Underground's meant to our musical taste, what the Factory meant in terms of like a kind of the ultimate DIY aesthetic of like, this was hugely influential for everyone who was like, and so Andy and Keith, were at SBA at the same time. I'm not Andy, I'm sorry, Keith and Kenny, Keith Haring and Kenny Sharp, and they worshipped Andy. So then when they start getting big, all of a sudden it's like they have this chance to meet Andy Warhol, and they're literally on their knees, full prostration. It's like, my God, and so that was great for Warhol, that basically that generation could, and it was great for his mind as well. So what's Keith's response? It's like he starts a pop shop, and it's like, I'm going to not only do T-shirts, I'm going to do refrigerator magnets and buttons and all this stuff like that, and just fully went to kind of like be, well, I don't need to, art can be this really democratic, really accessible thing. If you look at the history of multiples, which of course is what this is all feeding out of, right? So the idea of the multiple doesn't even come about till 1959, right? That's like the first time, like, Duchamp's talked about this idea before, but really, it's kind of late 50s when it comes about. So, okay, you've got the Europeans, you've got the whatever, and then in America, you've got the pop artists. Now the multiple is meant to be, even kind of, basically a more three-dimensional, more like manufactured version of like what the print would be, the artist print. It's like photography. It's like its market can only blow up so much. But the weird thing is by 5 years, 6, 7 years later, they're worth exactly what you paid for them in the first place. And then overnight, where these things, which are bought for $100, all of a sudden were worth a lot of money. Yeah. Early pop multiples is.
I'm going to just do a little bit of wordplay as far as some of the figures in the show, and just give me a quick visceral reaction. Eric Emerson.
Well, to me, he's really mythic, and he was such a beautiful figure. And Eric Emerson kind of disappears before so I don't know him as the kind of grumpy old hag like I know other, most of the people from the Factory.
Sure. Joe D'Alessandro.
Yeah, Joe's pretty amazing as well. And a really interesting body of work outside of Warhol, which is lesser known. People have shown me things. People show me the weird porn films he did, or, he's a kind of interesting, spirit. He's sort of like a character.
Lou Reed.
Asshole. Who was lucky enough to, work with John Cale, who was fortunate enough to have mastered his genius through working with people like Lamonte Young and Tony Conrad, and this great history of the avant-garde that kind of gets distilled down to this total fiasco of like what's supposed to be pop music at that time.
And Viva, did you have any?
Just just cool, weird old lady who lives up in Woodstock. She's an artist now, and she had a little gallery up there and stuff like that. So,
Billy Neal.
Billy's, a dear pal, a great guy, and a genuine freak, just a genuine, oddball kind of genius. And he's got some strange alchemy going in there.
You said you had seen Lonesome Cowboy before you'd come out to Tucson. I don't know how long you saw it.
It was a long time ago that I saw it. I remember liking it. And I know a lot of people don't, but the movie I always wanted to check out, which has never really come to light, was the surf movie he was trying to make out in California. Right? I think some footage exists, but it never really got made into a movie. So
cool. Well, I guess.
Is that good?
Yeah. Thank you very much.